Welcome to another episode of the Student Garden Thought Leaders series. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Ursula Safe. Ursula, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really excited to have you on the podcast today. We've just had the absolute joy of hearing the fact that you're Chamali, who's obviously one of our wonderful team members, first ever manager, and she had many wonderful things to say about you. So we're excited to have you on and have a bit of a conversation with you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks.
So Ursula, you're obviously the Assistant Director of Student Recruitment at RMIT at the moment. Maybe a good place for us to start is just to tell us a little bit about, I suppose, your background. I know you've been working in this industry for a while now, and a little bit about kind of what your role entails at RMIT.
Yeah, so I've been in the tertiary sector for quite a few years. It covers a couple of decades now. And I started off as a recruiter myself.
Yep.
So I think it's just been a journey of travelling through the different levels of recruitment. My role now encompasses domestic and onshore for international students,
Yep.
so which has been a nice bit of breadth for me.
Yep.
But yeah, I think, my role is really to encourage my team to be out there and working with prospective students, influencers, people like parents and so forth, just encouraging students to consider RMIT and
Awesome.
just I guess keeping them motivated and engaged, and they're a pretty great team actually. So it's a pretty easy job.
And so they're all onshore, but obviously throughout Australia, your team.
So I've got domestic team and I've got an onshore team as well.
Terrific.
So
Cool.
that's where the Australia bit comes in, which is quite a nice kind of variance in the way that I work actually.
And obviously, there's a fair amount of change kind of happening across this change is always happening, but it feels like there's been a lot, particularly in the last 5 years. Obviously, COVID had a pretty significant impact on onshore. We're obviously in Victoria now, so it was pretty dramatic in terms of what obviously how the education experience shifted kind of through that period, and now there's changes to technology, changes to policy that's kind of that's happening all around us. So we'd love to kind of hear from your perspective around what does kind of the future sort of look like in terms of student recruitment and this function, and what are some of the skills you think that are kind of really important to people who are kind of looking to forge a career kind of in this area?
It's such a fabulous question at the moment because, in fact, it's pretty much the conversation we're having every single day at the moment. What does recruitment look like?
Yeah.
And I guess it's a bit up in the air at the moment because we still, while there's been government announcements, there's nothing finalised at the moment, both for domestic and international. So it's really a question at the moment of trying to think ahead, trying to understand what recruitment could look like, and really having scenarios just ready to go. So once we do get the final word from government, we can say this is what we're going to move ahead with.
Yeah.
I think in terms of skills, I mean, it probably wouldn't be different from other industries. Resilience at the moment. I think you have to have a lot of resilience at the moment. You have to be able to say there are things that are outside of my control at the moment and not get overwhelmed by it. And I think that's probably even more so because we've come out of those couple of years of COVID where we felt like we've been there, we've done that, we got over that, and everyone was thinking, and now we've got that chance to rebuild. And I think to have some of these announcements come through at the moment, I can really see it's hit some of the team a bit hard. So I think resilience is a really big one, but I think it's just innovation as well. It's not about throwing everything out, but it's about saying, well, these are things that we still think are really important. Just how do we do that a little bit differently now? Because we still have to have these relationships. We still will have targets. So how do we just, think of it a little bit differently? Yeah,
it forces creativity as it did, throughout that kind of COVID period. And like one thing I've kind of learned being in this industry for the last decade is that while sometimes it feels like things are moving at a snail's pace, at other times this industry, there's some fantastic minds Obviously the amount of innovation that comes out of the universities across Australia is pretty staggering when you think about it. So, we're certainly capable of kind of solving some of these problems that we're going to be presented with.
Yeah, I'm actually really positive about it. I think for me too, I'm still quite new in this role, so I'm feeling quite elevated about it in a weird kind of way. But very aware that for people that have been in the industry for a long time, just making sure that they're feeling a bit positive and can see a way forward. But change it can be hard, but it can also be exhilarating as well.
Yeah, totally. In terms of kind of the student recruitment space, would love to get your thoughts on, if there was a radical kind of change you could make within the industry, what would that be and why would you make that change?
Again, a really interesting question. I mean, radical change it's almost like in terms of an area that's so governed and so regulated, radical change almost comes externally for us. And I guess then we have to meet that challenge. So look, I think for me, it's just, I think radical change at the moment would just be having a bit of a break actually from all the changes, if I'm really honest. I think, mainly that change is external. Generally speaking, universities are a bit of a slow moving industry. And I think that's just because of everything that governs it. They're huge organisations.
So, and evidence-based, you've got obviously it's academia, so it's, makes sense for things to kind of move before. It's not like, in startup world where you're building an MVP, you're moving, you're grooving, you're trying to fail fast and kind of move on to the next thing. It's obviously a considered approach to kind of continue moving forward at, at a rate that is, that works in terms of, works for the student cohort and obviously works for the people in the industry as well.
Yeah, but actually something that I have really enjoyed over the last couple of weeks is really hearing the Vice Chancellors and industry experts really commenting on the changes that are coming. I think probably our industry has been a bit quiet in that space before. So I think it's been fantastic to hear individuals speak up. I don't think they're speaking out, but I think just having that voice and putting their opinion forward has been a really interesting space to watch.
Totally. In terms of, your role and how you work with the various departments, again, particularly given when, we're going through a high degree of and a time when there's a lot of change around us, how important is kind of cross collaboration and how do you work with other teams kind of across the university? Again, knowing that a university like RMIT obviously has a pretty large employee base, how do you make sure that everyone's on the same page and how do you kind of lean in and leverage the resources from kind of other parts of the business?
Yeah, it's almost like it's vital to do it. I mean, our team is a team of 20 and, while we're passionate and we're experts in that space, we just can't do everything and nor should we. We're, as you said, a large organisation. We've got a lot of specialised skills around us. So I really lean into that, working with the other areas, even with our own marketing division. We've got some amazing experts in that space that really every day kind of are there to help guide me and advise. But then even if I think about like the colleges and the schools and the academics and so forth, we cannot do it without them either. So to me, it's a real opportunity to work with people, to learn from people. And I think that that's good as well because actually in the world of recruitment, you can be someone that, is a public speaker, you can be an event organizer, you'll be an account manager. You have a lot of skills. But for us to work with specialists as well and to understand how that all works in the whole student journey is a really important factor as well. So I think it's something that I really instill in the team as well. Yeah,
cool. I've heard from Chamali that you're an amazing leader. would love to, would love to learn a little bit and hear it from you. She's kind of described to me your leadership style, but I would love to hear in your own words, what's your leadership style and what are some of the things you think that makes, a great leader in an organisation like a university?
Okay, well, after this, I really want to hear what Shamali thinks. Yeah, look, I've been so lucky over my time to work with lots of different styles of leadership. And there've just been some real fantastic leaders that I've been with. So I've probably taken a little bit from everyone along the way. If I think about myself, I'm probably quite an empathetic leader. I'm a people person. I like to catch up with people and understand where they're coming from. But I also think I know what I want as well. So I'm always about that continuous improvement. I don't need change to happen overnight, but I just need to know that we're working towards a greater goal and we're always looking at ways that we can improve in what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. I'm always kind of asking for that stretch out of the team, but also making sure that stretch is reasonable and achievable, because I think if it's too far out of reach, it just doesn't motivate anyone. And if I think about my real passion and why I've stayed with recruitment, I think it's about creating those moments of connection with those prospective students, the parents, with teachers, with agents. It's really about making those moments happen and seeing how that can impact someone on their decision making and then essentially their life.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's such an enormous part of people's lives, their education. So,
yes.
Obviously, within Student Garden, I mean, that's kind of what drives and motivates us as well as, working with organisations who are obviously creating these amazing enriched experiences, but making education more accessible for everyone, and I think, universities like RMIT are focused on trying to push that, and try and think about, how do they make university more accessible, which I think is, pretty cool and pretty damn important in 2024.
Yeah, I've got to say, actually, where I am now, it's probably the biggest focus I've had on that equity, that customer experience. It's been really fabulous, and it's just kind of lived and breathed in the whole organisation. So it's a great one for that.
And Shamali, by the way, did describe you as a very empathetic leader.
Did she?
And she said she learnt a tremendous amount from you in a very short period of time. So there you go.
Oh, fantastic.
I would love to hear some more of some of your most memorable experiences. I know, again, it's obviously, you've had a number of diverse roles, I suppose, across your journey, but would love to hear from you, just some of the experiences that kind of stand out to you along the journey.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, obviously that's just, it's been a big journey and there's been a lot of experiences along the way. I think actually sometimes it's the small things that really make the difference. And this will be what I think a lot of recruiters will come back to. And in fact, I had a team day yesterday and one of my other recruiters was talking about this. And I thought that's absolutely what it's about, is when you see a student on campus and they say, oh, you won't remember this, but you spoke to me last year at my school and I'm here because of you today, know. So it's those little moments like that where you're like, yeah, I'm actually making a difference. I'm helping someone get to that next step in their life. So I think those times are always, they stay with you, don't they?
Yeah, totally.
I think, when I've had, the first time when I was leading a team and managing a team, that was really important, seeing them really blossom and turn into their own people and bringing their own ideas to life. I think those things always really sit with me. I always keep in touch with my previous colleagues. Yeah. I think they're the things that probably stand out with me most, but yeah.
Cool, I love that. And you mentioned that you're a people person, and I think, I kind of relate to that in terms of the thing that inspires me the most and the thing that kind of, helps get me out of bed, aside from screaming toddlers at 6 a.m. in the morning or whenever it is, is really about, kind of having a positive impact on the people that we're working with lives. And I think, we kind of think about it through the Student Garden lens, is we get to have that influence through the organisations that we work with. But, I sort of think about it through the context of, our team and the people that we're working with. Obviously, we have a bunch of people come in as interns, and we've got interns who have been with us now for 7, 8, 9 years, and we've been around for 11 years. And to me, that's, as rewarding, if not more rewarding, than all the financial goals and kind of everything else that kind of comes with, running a business like Student Garden.
The people are what make it completely. Yeah. It makes it easier to get up in the day.
Totally.
In the morning. Sorry.
In terms of, technology is obviously having a huge impact on, you mentioned, the RMIT really embraces technological change, but, it feels like, with Gen AI and with all the things that are kind of happening in terms of automation, that we're kind of going into this really exciting period for student recruitment and student experience as well. I'd love to sort of hear from you. How do you see technology kind of shaping the future and the student experience kind of over the years to come?
You've actually asked the worst person about technology, because it is absolutely not my strength. However, having said that, I love to see what people around me are doing with that. Look, I think it won't surprise you that automation is something that's coming on board, and especially I think when trying to now negotiating students and their applications and trying to determine their viability in terms of coming into university, just seeing how much we can automate in that space. I think that's really important, but also still making that connection with students as well. So seeing where we can use technology even before they start with us, how we can make that connection so they feel part of RMIT and feel part of that student group and what their lives will be like. But yeah, I've got to admit that is not my space. I'm people, but not technology.
Because at that, you mentioned earlier, a big part of what you do and your team does is kind of engaging with people at high schools. And I imagine, has that changed quite a bit in the last 5 years, or is it still about kind of getting out, having those conversations, meeting the people where they are, so to speak? Or how is kind of that relationship between the universities and kind of the high schools evolving?
Yeah, in some ways it's actually really the same. I mean, obviously COVID put a pause in that, but I think after that people really missed having that opportunity to have that face-to-face. And look, in many ways we offer prospective students various ways to get engaged with us. So obviously, there's digital, you can chat online, you can call someone, you can come to an event face to face. But our like for example, our open day numbers, they're massive, and after COVID there was a huge spike and we thought, oh well, that was probably just post-COVID, everyone was really excited. And then last year we even exceeded those numbers again. So I think that having that face-to-face experience, that wanting to check the campus out, to see what your life is going to be like, it's still there. It's still a need. Yeah,
totally. And final question from me, would love to, if you were to kind of go back to when you were starting this journey out kind of in, the student recruitment space, what kind of piece of advice would you give yourself, back at kind of day one?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's probably what other people would say. I just think be curious and be engaged. I think there's still a lot to do in the space. And so while it might be, things may not have changed, I think that they do slowly along the way. Yeah. I think there's still a lot to do. I think, just be engaged and get involved. I think probably I was quite shy at the start. But really it's the people that you meet along the way and the conversations that you have that really open up those possibilities, even outside. Like if I think about some of the conversations I've had outside of recruitment or even outside of a university, the things that just kind of trigger you to think of something a different way have been what moves me forward.
Cool. Well, I've certainly loved having one of those conversations with you today. Thank you for joining us, Ursula. Really been wonderful to chat. If people want to connect with you, is kind of LinkedIn the best place for people to reach out and connect?
LinkedIn, Ursula Safe. It's pretty simple.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in. Cheers, guys.
Thanks so much.